Right, before we get down to the nitty gritty, Friday, Daniel Glenn, for this post, won a copy of Blowing Bubbles magazine. Whoever leaves a comment today is going to be entered into a competition to win another one of these. Got 3 more to give away from today on this channel. Another 15 on the patrons. So, yeah, all you got to do is just leave a comment. You're automatically entered. We pick it at random. Daniel's won it this time. And, yeah, Daniel, in the link below where this video's showing, there's an email address to the editor of Blowing Bubbles magazine. Contact him. He will send you one out in the post. Anybody else, just click on the link below. You can subscribe to this wonderful monthly West Ham subscription. There's monthly columns by ex-West Ham United employee Phil Parks, George Paris, just like it's a West Ham magazine. What more do you need to know? Right, going on to what Daniel said in his post, if you read it, I popped it up. It was along the lines of next season with Dean Garner, next season with Bowen, next season with Souček. It's going to feel like we've got a bit of a new team anyway. It will seem like we've got new players. And certainly it's something I want to touch on at another point, really, which is I'm not sure, would we have done that Souček and Bowen business if we knew what was about to happen in terms of the world going into meltdown and COVID-19 and so on and so forth, and that there would be a financial crisis, not just in football, but in the world's economy itself with, in essence, a global recession. However, first I want to thank everybody for joining in on the Barry Silkman video yesterday. I thought it was fantastic, and I really enjoyed reading the comments. And you never know when you do something like that, whether it's going to work out, whether it didn't. But I had a lovely response, and I thank you all for everybody that just listened, watched, and joined in particular as well. So that was really great, and it's something we will look to do again. I think it's really interesting to get the insight of an agent on these certain deals, and I could have. Well, I say I could have talked for an hour. I got the impression Barry could have spoken for 2. He's clearly got a lot to say. I think we need to pick his brains on a lot of other things. What he did touch on, though, and this is what really this video is about, is about how little transfer deals have gone on so far. Because I think we're very guilty in the West Ham world of thinking that we live in a bubble, no pun intended. You know, no, we're not signing anyone, and that's very frustrating, and why aren't the board doing more, and all this sort of thing. And I'd like to think on this channel I've done enough on here that's critical of the board for you to know that when I come I'm coming at this from a balanced perspective, and not just because I have a particular agenda. But I just think on this one, I looked at it, and I just want to run through it now, on the deals that have been done so far, and it ain't an awful lot. Also, in terms of balance, I went and looked on a couple of other forums, and there was, because I like forums, because what they do is they give you a real insight into how the fan base is feeling, and it's not restricted in a number of words like Twitter is or something like that. People give a really, really detailed explanation. And one in particular, I went and looked on one of the Everton forums, and you know what? There's actually a thread on there. They're wondering why they didn't buy Anthony Robinson. They're wondering why, when they're going to buy any players, why hasn't the owner put in his hand in his pockets, and this, that and the other. And I think sometimes we are guilty of that, and I think it's worth looking at what the state of the transfer market is at present. And in particular, I want to touch on the Declan Rice thing, which funny enough is on there, because on this magazine it says name your price. I'm not quite sure that is the case, but let me just go through, be a bit listy this, but I just want to go through a few of the deals that have been done. So Arsenal have brought in William from Chelsea on a free. They brought in somebody called William Saliba from Saint Etienne for 27 million. Okay, Arsenal have spent 27 million. Aston Villa brought in nobody. This is as of today. Brighton, yeah, look, they've brought in Lallana on a free from Liverpool, someone called Jensen Weir, Zach Emerson from Oldham, and Veltman from Ajax for less than £1 million. Brighton have brought in 4 players, and well done. But this is feeding more into what we were discussing yesterday. These seem to be loan fees, free transfers. Brighton, I don't think Brighton have spent £2 million, basically. We go down to Burnley. Nobody has come in. Now, Burnley are a club that are going to be really hard hit by the lack of fans going in. We've seen this. I think they came out with a statement which said if the lockdown continued indefinitely, they would be close to going out of business. So we know that they are a club I say teetering, but they need everything. They need God's grace and a fair wind for everything to keep going well for them. So they brought nobody in. They've released a lot of players. I won't list them because there's no point. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They've released 9 players. Okay, Chelsea, the bigger spenders. Timo Werner, it says undisclosed. I believe he had a buyout of about 50 odd million from Timo Werner from RB Leipzig. Zuzek they've brought in from Ajax for 36 million. Now, so Chelsea have spent money. But you've got to remember here, there's two things. There's two factors that come into play, which is why this is not totally reflective of the football transfer market as a whole and in general. Number one, Chelsea had come off of a transfer ban. So they had a period where their normal transfer spend had not happened. So they had money sat there in the bank ready to go, irrespective of the fallout from COVID-19. Number two, Abramovich is cash rich, basically, not all of his money is tied up in assets. Yes, he has some money in assets, but a lot of it is available there. Without wanting to go into too much detail, he made his money and took a lot of money out, quite early on. So he's not suffering in the same way that a lot of other clubs would. That being said, I think they've now spent their money, and there seems to be a narrative coming out of Chelsea. We need to sell before we can spend. Just rattle through all these. Palace, Nathan Ferguson from West Brom for free. Everton have actually brought in, I didn't know this, and Nkunku from Marseille. Again, it's for free. Fulham, nobody in. Leeds, look, they've brought in a few players. They brought in someone from Man City on loan, someone from Wigan, from Linfield, from Fulham. It's not a massive influx of players for big fees, basically. Leicester in, nobody. They've released quite a few. This is Leicester. Liverpool. Costas from Olympiacos, 11 million. Man City, big spenders. Okay, so Nathan Ake, 41 million. Ferran Torres, 21 million. Moreno is undisclosed fee. Couto is 5.5. I don't think you need me to tell you about Manchester City. Man City are owned by one of the richest families in the world. And also, let's be fair, they were about to have their bottom smacked for spending, so they cut back a little bit in the last couple of seasons because they knew they had the away for inquiry coming up. What's happened is the Court of Arbitration for Sport overturned. That's now thinking, whee! Party time! Let's have a spend up. Manchester United have brought nobody. Igalo in on another. They've extended the loan from Shanghai. We know they've got a bit of money to spend there because they've got Alexis Sanchez off the books. Newcastle, they brought in Mark Gillespie from Motherwell on a free. Sheffield United, Wes Fordingbridge from Rangers on a free. Now, we do expect them to seal the deal and rubber stamp the deal. I think they're looking at Robinson from Wigan and also one of Bournemouth's players. I think they're looking to spend about 20 million quid. All I would suggest is, though, just again, please bear this in mind, Sheffield United are Saudi funded. So, again, they are oil rich, if that is such a thing. They've released an awful lot. And I think, as Barry Silkman said in the video yesterday, they had money saved up as well, which is worth noting. Southampton in. They've signed Mohamed Salisu from Valladolid. Have I said that right? I hope I have. And Carl Walker-Peters for undisclosed amounts. I would also say they've just sold Højbjerg, haven't they, for... it's all undisclosed. They haven't spent a lot. Net spend is not an awful lot, by the way. Tottenham Hotspur have bought in Højbjerg. West Brom have brought in nobody. West Ham, of course, we know, brought in nobody. Wolves, Luke Matheson for 1 million quid. That's it. It's not a lot of business. It's really not a lot of business. So I think maybe it puts into context that we've not done any business. The first thing I thought was, I think the Ajeti deal was okay, actually. If you take into account that we're going to have a loss, I think to get him on loan not with an option to buy, I think it's an agreement to buy. They have to buy him, basically. It's not an option. I think it's the same as our Souček one. Basically, as long as we stayed in the Premier League, we had to buy Souček. So I think Celtics is similar, not them staying in the SPL, but maybe as long as they get European football or something like that, then they have to buy him. Actually, I do think you get him 4.5, 5 million quid for a player. at the moment in the current climate is probably not a bad thing coming in. But what I really wanted to talk about was the Declan Rice situation with it, because I think this really plays into our hands with Declan Rice, this financial situation. I don't. It's said on the front of the magazine, name your price. Number one, I don't think we can name our price. I don't think anybody is coming in and buying Declan Rice for 60, 70 million, right? I don't think we'll accept any less than that. I think if someone comes in with 45 million, we'll say no. So Chelsea need to sell before they can buy. We know there's an interest. They hold an interest in Declan Rice. They want to sell Kante or Jorginho. These clubs aren't going to buy them. Real Madrid are not going to come in and buy Kante for 60, 70 million. I can't really see Real Madrid spending any sort of significant big money on numerous players. If they do, you get the impression it wouldn't be someone like Kante. It would be well, for instance, it looks like Man United are haggling over Jadon Sancho at the moment, okay? They can't really afford Jadon Sancho, or certainly not at the price that Borussia Dortmund are trying to sell him at. That sort of player, you can imagine, okay, Real Madrid, if Real Madrid have got one big spend in them, it might be that. Particularly bearing in mind, I would suggest that the Eden Hazard transfer has not been everything that they all hoped it would be. But 60, 70 million on defensive midfielder, as good as Kante is, and I do think he is the best at that, by the way, I just can't see them doing it. So I think, and I also think that Chelsea's next target is Havertz. And they clearly don't have the money for him. So what they've got to do is they've got to sell enough players to buy Havertz and sell enough players to generate enough money to buy Declan Rice. I don't think it's happening. I think we've got Declan Rice for next season. And for that reason, whilst in many, many other reasons, this whole pandemic has not played into West Ham's hands, I think in this instance it has. I think in this instance, without this football financial downturn, we wouldn't be able to keep Declan Rice. And not only would Chelsea have been interested, Man City, Man United, lots of other clubs, European clubs, would have had a surplus of cash. Or actually they'd have thought, you know what, we do have 80 million. The future is certain, we can spend this. Now the future is uncertain and they can't spend it. So it's almost like there's one show in town and it's Chelsea. And if Chelsea can't do it, then there's no show at all. So I think we keep Declan Rice. I really do. I cannot see a situation unfolding where somebody offers us what we think he's worth. And whilst we might be, and we touched on it in the interview yesterday, whilst we might be prepared to take a little hit, big hit, on Felipe Anderson or players like that, I don't think we are prepared to on Declan Rice. When Barry Silkman was saying, well, you know, you got him for nothing by so... What he was trying to say is, if we think Felipe Anderson is worth 35 million, so we have to sell him for 35 million, well... that's because that's what we bought him for. Well, we bought Declan Rice for nothing, so we have to sell him for nothing. I understand the logic, but it's too logical. Football is not that logical, actually. We know on the balance sheet we have an asset there in Declan Rice. And if we're viewing that asset at 80 million, someone coming in with 40, we're just going to say no. So I think we line up next season with Declan Rice and Souček in the middle. I really do, because I cannot see anything else happening. And I think just going back to what to Daniel's post at the start, who won the copy of the magazine, when he says about Souček, when he says about Bowman, he says about Diangana, and I think we need to probably speak about Diangana tomorrow, by the way, in tomorrow's video. When you look at all of that, I do almost think, if we can keep Declan Rice, as I say, and you're looking at these other players like a loan deal for a centre-back, Duffy, does it fill you with glee? Is it an exciting transfer? No. But if we can do something else at fullback as well, I actually think, bearing in mind nobody is spending anything at the moment, and I'm not so silly that I don't expect a little flurry of activity near transfer deadline day. But all this loan thing and these free transfers, it does seem to be going that way. But if things stay as they are, and we keep Declan Rice, and we can just tweak those few defensive positions, I think next season we might be all right.